It was supposed to be just another quiet evening. Ethan had driven out of town, searching for a shortcut that his GPS insisted existed. The road was narrow, lined with twisted trees, and when the fog rolled in, he realized he had taken a wrong turn. Up ahead, through the haze, he saw it. A lonely old house sitting in the middle of nowhere. Its wooden frame leaned forward as if gravity itself was trying to pull it into the ground. The porch creaked, even though no wind was blowing. Needing directions, Ethan pulled his car to the side. The house was the only sign of life for miles. As he approached, he noticed the front door wasn't just ajar, it was glowing. A pale blue light leaked out, cutting through the fog like an open wound in the night. And then, movement. A shadow stood in the doorway, tall, still, watching. Ethan froze. The figure didn't move closer, didn't wave, didn't even breathe. Its eyes, however, glowed faint red, faintly pulsing as if in rhythm with his heartbeat. That's when he noticed the message. Scratched into the wood of the porch, just below his feet, were two words, etched deep like they had been carved in desperation. Don't look! Ethan's chest tightened as he stepped back, staring at the scratched warning beneath his shoes. Don't look at what? Don't look where? He tried to convince himself it was just some prank. An old house, kids messing around, carving creepy words to scare trespassers. That had to be it. But the figure was still there, still standing, still watching. Ethan blinked hard, rubbed his eyes, then looked again. Yet the figure hadn't moved an inch, except the glow in its eyes seemed brighter now, stronger. His phone buzzed in his pocket, startling him. The screen lit up with a single notification, though he had no signal this deep in the woods. Look behind you. His breath caught. Slowly, almost against his own will, his head began to turn. Ethan turned his head, just enough to glimpse what was behind him. The fog had thickened, swallowing the road, the trees, even his car. At first, he thought the shadow had vanished from the doorway, until he realized there were two shadows now. One still standing inside the glowing doorway, and another one, impossibly close, standing right behind him. He felt the cold breath before he heard the voice. A whisper, so close it brushed against his ear. You weren't supposed to look. The porch light flickered violently. The words carved into the wood beneath his feet bled fresh crimson, as though the house itself was alive and trying to warn him too late. When he spun around, the figure wasn't just a silhouette anymore. It had a face. A twisted, eyeless grin stretching far too wide, its teeth glistening low like broken glass. And its hands were already reaching for him. Ethan stumbled backward, his heel catching on the rotten wood of the porch. He nearly fell, but the figure's hand shot forward, not to steady him, but to block his escape. The skin was ice cold, rubbery, like touching something long dead. The doorway figure moved too. It stepped out of the glowing frame, its form stretching unnaturally tall, bones cracking as though it had to reshape itself to pass into the world outside. Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to scream, but only a strangled breath escaped. The air grew heavy. The fog pressed in around him, muffling every sound except the pounding of his own heartbeat. And then he noticed something impossible. The message scratched into the porch was gone. The wood was smooth. Instead, the words now glowed faintly across his own skin, etched into his forearm in jagged, burning letters. Don't look. The figure leaned close, its teeth chattering together in a sound that wasn't laughter, wasn't speech, just hunger. Ethan did the only thing his mind screamed at him to do. He looked away. But in the silence that followed, he realized with horror that looking away didn't help. The whisper returned, surrounding him, echoing inside his skull. You've already seen us. Ethan's pulse hammered so loud it drowned out every thought. The shadows closed in, one from the doorway, one from behind, their movements unnatural, like frames missing from a film. He tried to run, bolting down the steps, but the fog was thicker than walls. No matter which way he turned, the old house reappeared in front of him, leaning forward, waiting. The porch, the door, the glowing frame, always there. Panic clawed at his chest. His phone vibrated again. He yanked it out with shaking hands, only to see the cracked screen pulsing with the same message over and over. Look! 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 The shadows surged closer, their limbs stretching, splitting, as if they weren't confined to a single human form anymore. Ethan raised his eyes and froze. Through the glowing doorway, he could now see inside the house. It wasn't a hallway, it wasn't even a room. It was a void, endless and pulsing, filled with hundreds of faces, screaming, eyeless, their mouths stretched wide as if trying to escape but trapped forever in that black abyss. And then he recognized one of them. It was his own face. Ethan's breath came in ragged gasps. His own face in that void stared back at him, mouth open in a silent scream. The faces around it twisted, stretching closer to the doorway as if the house itself was a prison wall, barely holding them back. The figure behind him whispered again, the words sliding into his ears like knives. "You've joined us already." Ethan clawed at his skin, trying to scrape away the glowing words burned into his forearm, but the letters only sank deeper, pulsing with every heartbeat. His arm felt heavier, like something inside was pulling it toward the doorway. The house moaned, its wooden beams groaning like ribs about to crack. The red-eyed shadow in the doorway stepped aside. The path was open now, and in his head he heard them all at once, the countless voices of the faces inside that void, screaming the same phrase in a deafening chorus. "Look!" Ethan couldn't close his eyes. He couldn't turn away. His body moved on its own, dragging him up the porch steps toward the glowing threshold, toward the endless abyss of screaming faces that waited to devour him. The closer Ethan was dragged to the doorway, the louder the voices became. They weren't just screaming anymore, they were pleading. Some begged for help, some begged him not to enter, but most begged him to switch places. His foot landed on the porch. The rotten wood didn't creak this time. Instead, it pulsed, like flesh under his shoe. He tried to fight back, planting his heels, but the figure behind him pushed with inhuman strength, and the shadow at the door reached out with arms too long. Too many joints, bending in impossible directions. The glow of the doorway brightened, no longer pale blue but searing white, burning through the fog, searing his vision. For a split second, Ethan thought he saw other doorways glowing in the distance through the haze, hundreds of them, scattered across the earth, each with their own screaming faces and their own trapped victims. The realization hit him like ice water. This wasn't just a house. This was a gateway, and he had already stepped halfway inside. The last thing Ethan heard before the light swallowed him was a single phrase whispered by the figure at his back, a voice that was no longer one, but thousands layered together. "Don't look away now." When Ethan's body crossed the glowing frame, the light vanished. The porch, the fog, even the road outside, gone. He was standing in the void now, surrounded by hundreds of faces. Their mouths screamed, but no sound came out. Ethan staggered forward, clutching his head, searching for an exit, but there was none. The abyss stretched endlessly in every direction. His reflection, the one he had seen earlier, stood only a few feet away. Except it wasn't a reflection anymore. It was him. Same eyes, same face, same clothes, but its grin stretched unnaturally wide. It stepped closer, and Ethan realized with horror that it was taking his place, slipping out of the void, back through the doorway. He ran, lunging for the exit, but it was already too late. The frame slammed shut, trapping him in the darkness. The other Ethan, the thing wearing his face, looked back at him one last time through the fading glow, and whispered the same words carved into Ethan's skin. "Don't look." The light blinked out. Silence. The house stood alone again in the fog, its porch empty, until headlights appeared on the distant road and another traveler slowed, thinking they'd found shelter.